Jesus' teachings still shake the world today, and yet most people ignore them as if they were ancient whispers lost in time. But what if the very words spoken 2,000 years ago are the only cure for the chaos we face right now? In a world drowning in depression, division, hatred, and fear, the timeless wisdom of Christ stands as a blazing light that refuses to be silenced. Before nations collapsed, before wars tore families apart, Jesus declared, "Love your neighbor, forgive those who hurt you, and find hope that even death cannot destroy." These are not outdated ideas. They are the blueprint for survival in a broken society. Why do we chase money, fame, and technology only to end up more empty than ever before? Could it be that we abandoned the one truth that could heal us all? In this video, you will discover why Jesus' teachings matter more than ever. You will see how love transforms enemies, how forgiveness shatters chains of hatred, how humility breaks the curse of ego, and how hope in eternal life silences fear. This is not religion for the past. It is the urgent call for today. So I want to ask you, which teaching of Jesus has touched your soul the most? And how would America change if we actually lived it? Leave your thoughts below, because your words might inspire someone searching for light. And if this message awakens something inside you, make sure to like and subscribe. Together we can bring these life-changing Bible lessons to the world. The broken world we live in. Look around, and you will feel the weight pressing on humanity's shoulders. Anxiety is soaring. Depression has become an epidemic, and loneliness grips millions, even in the most connected age of history. America, with all its wealth and technology, has never been so restless, so divided, so spiritually hungry. Families break apart while screens glow all night long, offering distraction but never healing. People scroll endlessly, searching for something they cannot even name, because deep down their souls cry out for meaning. And yet Jesus' teachings, ancient words of eternal wisdom, stand like an anchor in the storm, reminding us that no matter how advanced our world becomes, the human heart still bleeds the same wounds. Why is it that the richest generation in history feels the most empty? Could it be that we traded the living word for fleeting noise? Think about the young student drowning in debt, feeling hopeless about the future. Think of the single mother holding back tears, trying to keep her children safe in a culture of violence. Think of the veteran haunted by memories, struggling to find peace after war. Technology cannot erase their pain. Politics cannot legislate healing. Self-help cannot resurrect a crushed spirit. But the Bible speaks with a power that penetrates deeper than any algorithm or law, a power that transforms despair into courage, bitterness into forgiveness, emptiness into overflowing life. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Rest. This is what the modern soul longs for. And here lies the tragedy. People chase money, fame, and pleasure, but still wake up feeling lost. They mistake entertainment for joy, chemicals for peace, shallow relationships for love. The more they run from the teachings of Christ, the more they collapse into exhaustion. This is the brokenness of our world. But brokenness is not the end of the story. It is the moment when light pierces the cracks. And that light is love, the very heartbeat of Jesus' message. The eternal power of love. Love is the force that heals the fractures of humanity. Not the shallow love of convenience, but the sacrificial, unshakable love Jesus revealed when he washed the feet of his disciples and gave his life on the cross. This love is not theory, it is action, it is transformation. When Jesus said, "Love your neighbor as yourself," he was not offering a suggestion. He was declaring the only way the world can be made whole. Imagine America, where this teaching is lived daily, where racial hatred dissolves into brotherhood, where political enemies sit down as friends, where families once divided by bitterness are reunited by forgiveness. History proves the power of this love. It fueled the abolition of slavery, inspired Martin Luther King Jr. to march for civil rights, and continues to sustain countless charities, hospitals, and shelters that serve the forgotten. And it still works today. I remember the story of a man whose daughter was murdered, an unspeakable tragedy. Yet instead of revenge, he stood in the courtroom, looked at the killer, and said, "I forgive you, because Christ forgave me." That moment shattered hatred and revealed a love the world could not understand. That is the eternal power of the teachings of Jesus. But many resist love because it demands surrender. The ego wants control. The world teaches us to fight back, to take revenge, to protect ourselves at all costs. And yet the Bible reveals a different path, the path of humility, mercy, and compassion. Love does not deny justice. It transforms justice with mercy. Love does not ignore sin. It conquers sin with grace. Love does not erase pain. It carries us through pain into healing. This is why Jesus' words are not just beautiful, they are revolutionary. The lesson is clear. Without love, society collapses. With love, even the darkest night becomes bearable, because light always shines stronger than shadow. The brokenness of our world is an invitation to return to the only cure. The heart of humanity cries out for healing, and the answer has already been given. As the Apostle Paul wrote, these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. So when we see the brokenness around us, violence in the streets, division in politics, despair in families, we are not called to curse the darkness, but to shine the love of Christ brighter. Every act of kindness, every word of forgiveness, every choice to put others before ourselves is a step toward rebuilding what hate has torn down. This love is not weak. It is the most powerful force in the universe, and it is waiting for us to live it now, in our homes, in our communities, in America, in the world. From the cracks of a broken society rises the light of love. And as we carry this truth in our hearts, we are prepared to see how another teaching of Jesus, forgiveness, can unlock the deepest chains of hatred and set our souls free. Forgiveness, the medicine for hatred. Hatred is a poison that destroys the one who holds it far more than the one it is aimed at. Across America, across the world, you can see this poison at work. Families broken by grudges, communities divided by race and politics, entire nations torn apart by cycles of revenge. People think revenge will heal the wound, but it only deepens the scar. Jesus broke this chain with one command that still shocks the human heart: forgive, and you will be forgiven. These words are not soft, they are revolutionary. To forgive is not weakness, it is power. It is the power to cut off the endless cycle of hatred and replace it with peace. Imagine a courtroom where a grieving mother stands before the man who murdered her son. By every standard of the world, she has the right to hate. Yet she looks him in the eye and says, "I forgive you." In that moment, the chains of hatred shatter. This is not fiction. It has happened countless times, and every time it proves that the teachings of Jesus have a power no weapon, no law, no revenge can ever match. Forgiveness does not excuse the crime, it heals the soul. It does not erase justice, it transcends vengeance with mercy. Think of your own life. How many nights have you lost sleep replaying a betrayal? How often have you carried anger that eats away at your peace? The world tells you to hold on to that anger, to use it as fuel. But the Bible says the opposite: release it and you will be free. Forgiveness is medicine, not only for relationships, but for your own heart. Studies show that people who forgive experience lower stress, stronger mental health, even physical healing. But Jesus already knew this. when he forgave those who nailed him to the cross, whispering, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." If Christ could forgive in the darkest hour of human cruelty, how can we refuse forgiveness in our daily lives? The lesson is simple, yet profound. When you forgive, you are no longer controlled by the one who hurt you. You reclaim your peace, your dignity, your freedom. And that freedom prepares the soul for the next step of Jesus' teaching: humility, the antidote to the pride that keeps us enslaved. Humility versus ego, the way of Christ. The world screams at us to build bigger, shout louder, climb higher, and prove our worth. Social media fuels the obsession with self. Endless selfies, endless competition, endless hunger for likes and validation. But Jesus said something so radical that it cuts through the noise. Whoever wants to be first must be the servant of all. These words flip the script. They reveal a truth that feels upside down, but is in fact the deepest wisdom. The path to greatness is the path of humility. Humility does not mean weakness. It means strength under control. A heart that does not need to boast, because it already knows its worth in God. Think of the greatest leaders in history. Moses leading a stubborn people through the desert. Mother Teresa holding dying children in her arms. Martin Luther King Jr. walking into danger for the dream of justice. What do they have in common? Not ego, not pride. They had humility, the courage to serve when others demanded to be served. That is why their legacy still burns brightly long after their voices went silent. Now compare that with the countless celebrities and leaders who rose high with arrogance but collapsed into scandal and shame. Pride always comes before the fall. Ego whispers, "You are everything." Humility whispers, "Serve, and you will find everything." And in that service, we discover the life Jesus promised. Life filled with meaning. Life anchored not in applause, but in eternal truth. A practical example is found in the workplace. The proud worker cuts corners to rise quickly, but soon is exposed and forgotten. The humble worker serves faithfully, lifting others up, and in time earns trust that no pride could ever buy. Families thrive when humility replaces ego, when a husband chooses to listen instead of shout, when a wife chooses to forgive instead of fight, when children learn that love is stronger than winning an argument. Communities heal when humility replaces division, when neighbors help instead of compete, when leaders serve instead of exploit. Humility is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It silences the endless hunger of the ego and makes room for love to grow. Jesus himself showed this by washing his disciples' feet, by riding into Jerusalem not on a war horse, but on a humble donkey, by laying down his life for those who least deserved it. This is the way of Christ, the way that heals not only individuals, but entire nations. The lesson is piercing. The ego builds towers that crumble, but humility lays foundations that last forever. When forgiveness sets us free from hatred, humility sets us free from ourselves, and together they prepare the heart for the ultimate promise, the hope that even death cannot destroy. Hope beyond death, the ultimate promise. Every human heart trembles at the thought of death. It is the great equalizer, the shadow that haunts kings and beggars alike. No amount of technology, no government program, no medical breakthrough can erase this fear. People try to distract themselves, burying the thought under endless work, endless entertainment, endless possessions. But when the night is quiet and the room is dark, the soul whispers the same question: what happens when I die? Jesus answered that question with words that thunder across eternity. I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me will live, even though they die. These are not poetic lines. They are the greatest promise ever spoken. During the darkest days of the pandemic, countless families wept in hospital rooms, unable to hold the hands of those they loved. Fear gripped the entire world, reminding us how fragile our existence truly is. Yet in the middle of that storm, many believers found a peace that defied logic. They clung to this promise of Christ, knowing that death is not the end, but the doorway to everlasting life. This hope does not erase grief, but it transforms grief into courage. It turns funerals into declarations of faith, where tears mingle with songs of trust. Think about it. If death is the end, then everything we do is meaningless. Love fades, justice fails, sacrifice is wasted. But if Jesus is who he says he is, then every act of love echoes into eternity, every sacrifice has eternal value, and every tear will one day be wiped away. The hope of resurrection gives meaning to suffering, strength in trials, and boldness in the face of fear. That is why Christians across history were able to face lions in the arena, chains in the dungeon, and flames at the stake with songs on their lips. They knew that beyond the pain of this world lies the glory of the next. But this hope is not just for martyrs. It is for you. It is for the parent praying for their child, the student crushed by anxiety, the elderly facing their last days. Hope is the anchor that holds when the storms rage, and this anchor is Jesus himself. Without him, death is a cliff. With him, death is a bridge. And this hope demands a response. Will we live as if this life is all there is, or will we live with eternity in view? The answer shapes everything we do today, and that is why the next step is crucial. Living these teachings in the here and now in modern America, where the world desperately needs examples of faith in action. Living the teachings in modern America. It is one thing to admire the words of Jesus. It is another to live them in the middle of 21st century chaos. America today is filled with contradictions. Wealth and poverty side by side, freedom and oppression in the same streets, endless voices but so little truth. People are searching for authenticity, for someone who does not just preach love and forgiveness and humility, but actually lives it. This is where the followers of Christ are called to shine. Imagine a family where forgiveness replaces shouting. Instead of years of silent resentment, a father embraces his son, a wife releases the anger she has carried. Children learn that grace is stronger than punishment. That home becomes a sanctuary of peace, a glimpse of heaven in a broken world. Now imagine communities where love replaces division. Neighbors of different races and political views choose to sit together, share meals, pray for one another. That community becomes a light in the darkness of hate. This is not wishful thinking. It has happened before, and it can happen again when people take Jesus seriously. Consider the workplace. The culture often rewards pride, stepping on others to climb higher. But when someone chooses humility, when they serve instead of compete, something powerful happens. Respect is earned, trust is built, and influence grows. This is living the way of Christ in a place where most people never expect to see him. Or think of schools where bullying and anxiety dominate. A single student who chooses love over cruelty, who stands up for the weak, can transform an entire classroom. This is not theory. It is the reality of what happens when the gospel moves from the page into practice. The lesson here is practical. Reading the Bible is not enough. Quoting Jesus is not enough. The world is watching to see if his words change our actions. When Christians love their enemies, forgive the unforgivable, serve the undeserving, and hope in the face of fear, then the world sees something it cannot explain. That witness is more powerful than any sermon, more persuasive than any argument. It is the living proof that Jesus' teachings matter more than ever. And here is the challenge for each of us. What would America look like if millions decided to live this way? What would happen if forgiveness flooded our neighborhoods, if humility guided our leaders, If hope replaced fear in our families, would violence decrease? Would unity grow? Would despair turn into courage? These are not abstract questions. They are invitations. Every viewer has the power to take one step today, to live one teaching of Jesus more fully. And each small step becomes a spark that can ignite a movement of healing. So the call is personal. Which teaching of Christ will you live this week? Will you forgive the person who wronged you, serve someone without recognition, or bring hope to a friend in despair? Share it, speak it, live it, because in living his words, we prove to a broken world that Jesus' teachings are not just history, they are life, and they matter now more than ever. The words of Jesus are not just pages in an ancient book, they are living fire meant to burn inside the human soul, guiding us through the storms of life with love, forgiveness, humility, and hope. As we stand in a world torn apart by division and fear, his teachings shine like a lighthouse on the edge of a dark and violent sea, calling us home to safety. Imagine for a moment if the entire world chose to live these words, if we loved our neighbors as ourselves, if we forgave instead of cursed, if we served instead of demanded, if we hoped instead of feared. The streets would echo less with hatred and more with compassion. Families would no longer collapse under bitterness, but stand strong in unity, and communities once divided would rise in healing. This is not a dream. It is the promise of Christ when we take his teaching seriously. Think about your own journey. Maybe you carry the weight of resentment or the fear of what tomorrow brings. Maybe you've been chasing success, approval, or comfort, only to discover that your soul still feels empty. That emptiness is not a curse. It is an invitation. It is the voice of God whispering, "Come closer." And when you step closer to Jesus, when you live his words, you discover the peace you've been searching for all along. Forgiveness becomes freedom. Love becomes strength. Humility becomes greatness. Hope becomes unshakable. This is what the teachings of Jesus do. They do not just inspire, they transform. And yet the challenge is not just to hear them, but to live them. Words alone cannot heal a broken world. Action is what breathes life into them. So the question is not whether his words matter, but whether we will let them matter in us. Will we forgive that one person we've held a grudge against for years? Will we choose humility in a culture that worships ego? Will we cling to hope in a world that glorifies despair? These choices are the battlegrounds of the soul. They may feel small, but they ripple into eternity. History proves it. Generations have risen and fallen, empires have come and gone, but the teachings of Jesus remain. They are the foundation of justice, the heart of mercy, the breath of hope for billions. From the slave who found freedom in the gospel, to the activist who risked his life for equality, to the grieving parent who forgave instead of hated, the power of Christ has been written into the very story of humanity. And now, the next chapter is ours to write. What will we do with his words today? If you have felt something stirring in your heart while listening, don't ignore it. That stirring is the Spirit of God drawing you closer. Let this not be just another video you watch and scroll past. Let it be the turning point where his teachings move from your ears into your life. And if you have already experienced his love and his forgiveness, share it in the comments. Your testimony may be the light someone else desperately needs tonight. Which teaching of Jesus has touched your heart the deepest? And how will you live it this week? Your words could be the spark that ignites healing in another soul. If this message has spoken to you, if it has given you strength, light, or even a moment of peace, I invite you to support this journey. Every like, every subscribe, every bit of encouragement you leave helps me continue creating these videos that spread the word of God to those who may never otherwise hear it. If you feel that this video brought value to your soul, if it gave you light in your darkest day. Consider offering a little energy back, so that together we can keep sharing hope. Every contribution, no matter how small, is priceless because it carries the weight of love. And from my heart, I thank you. The story of Jesus is not finished. It continues in us. His teachings are not ancient relics, but living truths waiting for us to embody them. Love, forgiveness, humility, hope. These are not just words, they are weapons of healing, medicine for the soul, light for the world. So let us live them boldly. Let us carry them into our families, our schools, our workplaces, our cities. The world is broken, yes, but the cure has already been given, and it lives in the words of Christ. They matter more than ever, and they matter right now.